Hello and welcome everyone to episode 3 of the Nerd Switch podcast. My name is Dylan, and today I'll be your guide through the multiverse. Joining me today, my good friend and fellow nerd Jeremiah.
Hey, thanks for having me again.
Of course, happy to have you, buddy. And then this is a bit of a special episode because also joining us today are the lovely hosts of the Average Joe Show podcast, Amy and Sam. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having us.
So pumped.
I'm so excited.
So while you're here, since you're joining us today, why don't you tell us a little bit about your show and kind of what you guys are about?
Well, what we usually say, we're the freaking brother-sister combo of a lifetime. Me and Amy, we've just always loved movies and games and whatnot, and we could talk about it forever. And we just thought, oh, let's do a podcast. And so we talk about movies and whatnot, and yeah.
Nothing too crazy.
So last night we all got together and we took some time to watch what's becoming one of my favorite movies of all time, and this is Everything Everywhere All at Once. Probably a movie not a lot of people have heard about, but I think it's one that kind of needs to be seen if you haven't. I remember on your guys' podcast, you were diving into the multiverse a little bit, and you were talking about how there were so many like multiverse-themed movies coming out that this is one you had heard of, but just hadn't gone to see, for fear of just having more of the same. But now, having seen the movie, before we get too deep into it, I just wanted to kind of get your guys' impressions and thoughts. What did you think?
Going into it, I was actually really wanting to watch, before getting into the movie, I really wanted to watch it. And when it came out to theaters, just here in town, it was just not at theaters for very long, and we never got the chance. But I think it's by far, the greatest movie of the year. But I think that might just be recency bias. But
I'd say it's the best multiverse movie, right now. Just comparing to, what Marvel was doing with Multiverse of Madness and No Way Home. Just, the consistency of it. It's, I don't know what's happening. And this one just keeps it simple by just being oh yeah, you just slingshot yourself into another one. And that's how it goes. And it's
doing something weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen the movie 3 times now, and every time I watch it, I pick up more and enjoy it more than the previous time. So I was happy to have you guys experience it for the first time with us being there. Jeremiah, I know it's the second time you've seen it.
Second time, both times with you, which has been such a great experience.
So we're just going to spend some time today to kind of discuss it and kind of give our thoughts. And there probably will be spoilers later on, but we'll kind of try and keep it brief.
We'll keep it on the down low.
Yeah, if you haven't seen the movie, for those of you who don't want any information, this is definitely a movie that is best seen with less context and less knowledge. So if you haven't seen it and you're curious, go watch it. It's really good. It's worth your money and time.
Don't even look at the trailer.
Go in completely blind.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
So without further ado, let's go ahead and flip the switch and talk about Everything Everywhere All at Once. So before we dive too far in, I want to kind of just go over the plot briefly, which is hard to do because it's a multiverse movie, but it's also at its core kind of a family drama and comedy and horror movie, action movie, all that.
Oh, yeah.
But you have the Wang family, consisting of Evelyn Wang, played by Michelle Yeoh, who I know I've seen somewhere else, but I'm not quite familiar with a lot of her other movies. But she kills it in this movie. Joy Wang, the daughter in the family, played by Stephanie Su, I believe, who also is one of her first leading roles in a movie, and she does a fantastic job. And then my favorite inclusion in the movie is Waymond Wang, whose name I'm gonna butcher, but I think it's K. Hugh Kwan or something like that. But for those of you who don't remember, he was the one who played Short Round clear back when Indiana Jones 2 and the Temple of Doom came out, as well as a role in the Goonies.
Data.
So he's been off camera for 20 years, and this is the first movie he's come back for, which we'll dive into a bit later with kind of what he does in this movie. But I think it's just incredible, the range that he has for someone who hasn't acted in so long. But that's the bulk of the family. There's also the kind of father or grandpa played by James Hong, who goes by Gong Gong in the movie. Not in it as much as the other three, but still a pretty key part. And it's just a lot of family drama between them, running a laundromat, being kind of lower class in the USA, running a failing business with a marriage that's also perceived as failing, while also kind of exploring the multiverse. It's a hard thing to tie together, but the movie manages to do it. So having the topic kind of out of the way, I just want to go around and see if there's anything you guys want to talk about in particular with the movie. Anything that sticks out to you, but not starting with me.
I guess I'll go first. Let's
I'm
go.
looking at you, bro.
Things I really enjoyed about going over this movie is incredible storytelling, and their interpretation for this movie was done super well for how they can get around in the multiverse. It's hilarious, and in not a science way, but does make sense that if you do something super embarrassing, you'd really not want to be you right now, so you're going to want to go somewhere far away, and you're going to want to jump to your other self, where you didn't make that choice.
I didn't even think of that.
It really fits. Like, it really works out. It's like, oh, this is how you don't want to be here in this situation. Do something super embarrassing. Maybe you'll jump to another location where you didn't do this.
Yeah, it was completing like the most random action to kind of somehow propel yourself to that line.
Pretty much. It's making weird choices you wouldn't normally make to then go to another world where you would have not made that choice.
Yeah, it delves very deeply into like life path decisions with the way it looks at it. So basically every point in your life where you would have made a decision that's substantial, it's saying there's an alternate reality where you didn't make that decision, and then everything branches on from there, basically creating these countless universes just based on what you've done as a person individually, which I think is a cool way to look at it. As far as like explaining it, I think it does a really good job explaining the multiverse and how it works in this movie compared to the other examples we've seen. Marvel does it shakily and messily, in my opinion, but it's fun to watch from them. But this movie I appreciate for kind of putting in more effort to explain it and also flesh it out into the context of its own story.
For such like a out of the box thinking, and then just this movie, it wasn't in theaters very long. Like, it wasn't a big release, but they put a lot of detail and thought into their idea for this. They really did think like of great story for it, how it's going to play out, how it can work so it doesn't contradict or anything. They did a lot of work into this, and it worked out really well.
I think it was just. I think the biggest thing that hurt the movie was that not a lot of people saw it because it was a rated R movie. So it shortened like the it made the viewing, like the focus group, very, very small compared to like a PG-13 like Marvel. Like a lot of people will watch more Marvel stuff because it's more appropriate for younger audiences, while not a lot of people will watch it just because of the rating of it being rated R. But
that, and it's also put out by A24, which is a studio that's much more well known for kind of like art housey projects, movies like Hereditary, Midsummer, everything like that. Doesn't see as much footwork in the theaters as far as people going to see the movie. So,
yeah, I don't think I've ever seen an A24 movie in theaters. It's always been like, oh, we're watching it at home now. Don't ask me what A24 movies I've seen other than this one.
I was telling one of my friends, like, oh yeah, it's an A24 movie, you should watch it. And they're like, The Sauce? And I was like, no, no, not that. Please.
That's A21.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite movie studios. I mean, just this year they've released one or two other movies that I was a pretty big fan of, so I'm pretty happy to see them putting out something this good. I think this kind of tops even a lot of their other movies. But What about you, Amy? Anything in particular you liked from this one, or?
I really liked the story.
That's where I'm at too.
Yeah. Like, it's such an easy thing to do, like, family drama stuff. But just, like, doing it in a unique way that, like, sets it apart from, like, other ones makes it real good. And it, like, hits close to home in a lot of those aspects.
Give you the feels.
So it's like, oh yeah, yeah. It's like, oh, this movie's hurting me, but I love it.
Yeah,
I'm feeling things again.
definitely an emotional roller coaster. That's for sure.
Yeah, because that's something that I really like about the movie is like the general message of the movie, is seeing, like, I don't know what I got out of it. Like, what really attached me to the movie and attached me to the characters was, like, most people they see failure in their lives. If you don't see failure in your lives, you're one of the most positive people I've ever met. And but like seeing this family like go through all this, like go through this quote unquote failure of like having a business that's not doing very well, the marriage that's not doing very well, and the relationship with the mother and the daughter, and even the relationship between the mother and her father. And it was just, I thought it was very interesting because, and it did sort of hit home because, like, a lot of times I see myself, like, in life being like, oh, I have all these dreams and aspirations that I want, and then all of a sudden failure comes and it just doesn't work, and I always overthink of like, oh, what could have happened if I did this, and everything everywhere all at once was just like, this is what could have happened. You could have been a kung fu movie star. You could have been you could have had long hot dog fingers.
Right. Yeah, a lot of what the movie does is it messes with the idea of kind of gaining perspective and understanding, specifically between, the grandpa Gong Gong to his daughter to her daughter. There's a generational gap that is pretty broad there, whereas you're looking at the daughter figure who in the movie is gay, which is something her mother, I feel more acts to accept than like genuinely accepts it, but the mother is so scared of her grandpa finding out that it's like she never wants them to really talk about it, and it's just kind of swept under the rug that way. And it's a lot about just trying to get into the shoes of another person that way, and a lot of the movie's conflicts kind of get resolved once they actually start to understand each other, specifically the mom and the daughter, because the daughter also just never really felt connected and loved by her mother because, the mother character also had a divide with her father where she basically, or the father let her go very easily at one point and kind of had the mentality of like, you're not my daughter, you're going off to be with this loser, get out of my life. And that kind of sticks with Evelyn's character, the mother, with her own daughter, where like she tries to be what her father wasn't for her, but you can tell it still kind of resides, from one generation to another, kind of that divide within the family.
You don't want to become your parents, and then in doing so, you kind of start becoming your parent.
Right. So yeah, that's one part I think works really well for the movie. It's a lot of perspective and understanding on the family drama side. And then, it ties that in to the multiverse in a pretty cool way where you learn her daughter. So there's the two main universes it talks about is the one where our version of Evelyn is in, as well as the Alpha universe, which is established as being like the first universe to make contact with the others. And then you learn that Evelyn's character in the Alpha universe was the one that was this like genius scientist who made that connection. But in doing so, when she found that her daughter in that universe was like the most prime candidate as far as actually like exploring the other universes, she pushes her too hard, and her daughter ends up becoming the main antagonist of the movie, which is like Joji Tupaka, Sriracha Churak.
El Chupacabra.
What?
No, it's Jobu Tupaki is what they call it in the movie. And she's this character that just kind of exists in all universes at once, which makes her really powerful within the movie. and she spends the movie kind of just wreaking havoc
Are
and
you saying that she is everywhere and everything all at once?
pretty much.
Wow.
Dude!
So yeah, a lot of it focuses on the conflict between our version of Evelyn and her family existing in current family drama while tying it in to the wider story with the other universes and Jobu Tupaki kind of wreaking havoc everywhere that way. So it balances a lot being the movie that it is, but I've never seen a movie be so broad and dynamic that pulls it off as cleanly as this one does. So really impressive stuff. But since we're getting into the characters a little bit, I do want to kind of go around and get our thoughts on the individual performances within the movie. Starting with Evelyn Wang, played by Michelle Yeoh. What did you guys think of her performance in this movie?
Really good, honestly. Like, she did a fantastic job. One thing I really enjoyed with this movie is normally I don't really sense it too much from movies, but character development. In a movie, I don't see it too much. Like, if you have multiple movies, you can see it progress. If you have a series, you can see it progress. But to have a movie character, to have a full backstory, detail about how they're feeling, and then to actually show them progress through the movie is amazing to do. And she portrayed every emotion for it. She was able to develop as a character through this movie, and she did a great job at it.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Sam? What did you think?
I liked her a lot. That development of where she was at the beginning, where the only thing she was confident in was telling her daughter what to do.
Right.
Just being like, hey, you need to do all this, but she wasn't confident with when she went and did like the tax stuff, and she struggles with the language, and there's that crazy language barrier, but then you don't really notice that toward, like, you see a confident and a whole new person that's actually developed at the end of the movie who is compassionate, who cares about caring for other people, but doesn't really like judge and whatnot, because that's her biggest flaw, is her judgment factor at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the movie she changes that, she takes that judgment out and replaces it with this loving nature that she has, and I think it's really cool. And she was able to show like a realistic sense of how that looks like, because you see parents that are like that, or just other adult figures that are this very controlling, doesn't seem like they're very loving characters, and they're too worried about the image that they have for whatever circumstance it is, like an image of like how companies should be, and like the work team, or like especially like a family, that dynamic. But
Yeah, she definitely had like that picture that she was lower class. She had a small apartment. She felt it was small, and she felt just belittled in that position that she was in.
Mm-hmm.
And it shows like that she kind of grows out of it, and she kind of grows into where her situation was, that she starts to appreciate these decisions that she has made and where she has ended up.
I think especially like the first time that she like jumps to another universe, she isn't with her husband, and she's like a famous actress that knows karate. And the first thing that she was like, oh dude, I gotta tell my husband how great it is, how this universe is without him. I gotta tell him right now.
Yeah, she can be pretty brutal in this movie
She's very blunt.
when talking to her family, because after she experiences one of her alternate lives, she immediately tells Waymond, like, I saw my life without you and it was so good.
Dang, what the?
I loved my life without you. Like, why didn't I make that decision?
Dude, and he's such the sweetest person ever.
He was so
Why would you do that?
nice.
Right. So yeah, just really good range from her. She wears a lot of hats in this movie, and she has to do a lot as an actress, and I think she nails every part of it. But moving along from her, let's take a second to talk about the daughter in the family, Joy Wang, played by Stephanie Sue. What did you guys think on her part?
So did you say that this was her first big performance?
That I know of. From what I've heard, she hasn't done a lot of acting, or at least nothing like huge. So I think this is technically her debut role.
I did.
That's super cool.
I saw that she was in Shang-Chi, but I think she was probably just like a background person. Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't. I'm not sure, but she looked super familiar.
She had the scene when they were talking about how like Shang-Chi and his friend were not living the best lives. I think she was playing the character who like had a good job.
Oh, she's that
Yeah.
character. Cool.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay. How the tables have turned. She was the person that's super judgmental. Now she's the other way around. The one who was being judged.
Right. Yeah, she plays kind of a tragic character in the movie because when you're looking at her from the angle of what we're just going to call our universe, she's, you know, she doesn't have a good connection with her mother and the rest of her family. She's gay, so, you know, she's already dealing with that stuff, which is still touchy in this day and time. And
it seems like she's not openly gay. That's a big problem. Like,
yeah,
that's a big
she definitely had
struggle,
a lot of the like shyness and kind of concealment of it, which, you know, is not personally relatable for me, but I know it's a thing that a lot of people have to deal with, and I know it's not easy. But I think
okay, Dylan.
I'm not gay.
I'm not.
I swear. But yeah, she does a really good job. I mean, she's got the broken family angle. She's also, as a character, just depressed and kind of hopeless as you get into the movie, which also ties into her like other portrayal as Jobu Tupaki. And, you know, she's a sad character. She plays the villainous angle, but I think it's a villain you also kind of emphasize with because she's got the real-world elements that tie her into being relatable, and you can kind of emphasize with how she's feeling during the movie.
Are you meaning empathize?
Yes. What did I say?
Emphasize.
That's okay.
I'm like, that's not the right word.
Yeah, she, similar to Evelyn's character, she just wears a lot of hats. There's a particular sequence when she's first showing up as the bad guy in a hallway where she meets her mother from our universe, where you see her have like 10 costume changes, and she has this huge range of characters she's basically portraying in the one scene. Mm-hmm. And it's just fantastic the way that she's able to pull it off. That scene I thought was one of the kind of highlights of the movie. But was there anything else from her that kind of stood out? Like, we'll start with you, Jeremiah. Anything from her character you particularly like?
A lot of stuff you kind of pointed out. Just the range that she is known as like a villain character, but it's something that you can relate to this character. A lot of villains, you'll see that they have their agenda. They want to take over the world. They want to do this, destroy the world. They want to do something. But this character was, in the sense that they were being everything and seeing the universe as a atom world. They were seeing it as just like how everything is the same. It just changes its molecular code just to like change the way things look. And so she can only see things in that way after she was put through the test to jump to other realities. Mm-hmm. And as she was able to see everything that way, she thinks that the world is meaningless because the time we have is so short in comparison that we make all of these decisions. Any decision you make can change your whole outlook on everything, but then at the same time it also means nothing because that they're all there, right there in front of her. She can see them all. Mm-hmm. And she kind of loses touch that she just doesn't want to be there anymore because she is there. She's everywhere.
Right. So
she gets to this point where she's like, I want to go, but she does one thing where she has this little something inside that's saying, let's see if we can't find a reason to stay. And that's where she looks to her mom for help. She's looking for someone to tell her another way.
Yeah, the movie kind of toys around with the idea of, like, if you exist to where you exist within everything, does anything really matter? And that's kind of its view on depression and despair coming from Jobu Topaki, or the more villainous angle of the character, whereas it ties into her more real world, source of those feelings with her family. And I think it's a cool way it balances it. Sam, how about you? Anything that stands out with her?
I think we're just this is just a broken record, but she's just so good. I like her. Like it just boggles my mind that she's just so new at this, and she did so good. There was one part that I noticed that I'm like, oh, I'm not a big fan of this acting thing. Was her first, like, she was sitting in a car and she started like crying. Her crying face killed me. I don't know what was wrong with it, but I was not into it. But other than that, she was just so good. You could sympathize with her. You could see I don't know, like when you look at her character, the message that it gives to each of us, I guess the point, or the message that I got from it was, if you feel lost in your life, if you feel like nothing's going well for you, like, there is some way that you can change it and make it all better. You probably won't make everything better, but there's a chance that you can make it better if you change. You can get out of that hole that you feel like you're in, and that's what this everything bagel is that hole. It's like you're stuck in, like, and she feels like that she's stuck in this hole and she can't get out of it, and she wants life to be better, but she struggles with that constant failure as well. She felt like she was overworked, and now she's just tired. She's done. Mm-hmm. And I think what we should take from it is just I just see more than just the storytelling of her character. I'm just a sort of distance from her performance and whatnot, but she's just so talented on helping that storyline and that message go through, like, and come out and be able to have the viewers interpret it and help it mean something to them. And that's what is super cool about this movie, is that this message is so wildly important, especially to, I don't know, well, yeah, especially to me. Not saying that I am depressed and I am all this and that, but like, there's some points where in life where you're going to be in a rut. There's going to be a point where you're stuck in that hole, but you can get out of it if you reach out to the people that love you, and the people that you love as well. They can help you get out of whatever you need to be.
Right.
Yeah. I'll stand off I'll get off my pedestal.
Thank you, Dr. Sam.
Thank you.
What about you, Amy? Anything you want to add on this performance?
Where to begin? I love the costume design of just, like, everything. Like, I think all of her designs are, like, peak. I just love all the styles that they did. They're all so colorful and all unique. I don't even know where to start. It's just so good. Like, you guys already nailed everything.
Yeah, I'm glad that she didn't come across more as like a two-dimensional villain like we've seen in so many movies. I'm pointing at Black Widow for its depiction of toxic masculinity. I forget his name.
I was about to say Ivan Drago, but that's Rocky.
Yeah, him.
Yeah, I like that they gave her so much depth and kind of portrayed her as not just the main villain, but an essential part of the family as well, which gives you two different ways to look at the same character. And I just thought she did a good job. The way that she acted in it, the way that the role was written for her, it all tied together really nicely. How about the secret superstar in the movie, Jamie Lee Curtis?
Oh, I thought you were gonna go with Ki Kwan.
That
Dude,
secret superstar.
I didn't know that she was in the movie. So when I saw her, I was like, there she is! No way, it's her!
Right. Yeah, for those that don't know, she plays, I think it's like Deidre or something.
Deidre.
Deidre?
I don't
Yeah.
even want to know how to pronounce that last name. Biudare? Biudare?
Yeah.
Now I want to see this. What the heck?
It's like Deidre Bidry.
Insert Google Translate clip here.
The BEAU is Bo. It's Bo. Yeah. Never mind. Yeah.
It's cutting off the last name, so I can't even do it. So I'm giving up.
Yeah, in the movie, she plays kind of this IRS agent that is the one who's auditing the Wang family and their laundry business, and she also plays an antagonistic role in the movie, which works really well because she's just really funny in the role and kind of intimidating and scary.
She did really well for like going back and forth between characters to like, because again it's a multiverse, so you've got all these different emotions and characters you have to kind of play when you're playing this one character.
Right.
And she did really well of jumping from back and forth to being a IRS agent, basically doing her job, dealing with possible tax fraud, to going to a completely different character of a follower for Jobu Tupaki and trying to kill our lead character.
And to kind of side note there, one thing that we didn't really explain yet, so what they can do, there's this thing in the movie that they call verse jumping, which allows you to kind of neurally connect yourself to an alternate version to acquire their skills and memories, if that makes sense. But what they do to do it is you have to complete this really like random action you see in the movie. There's times where like Deidre,
random and uncomfortable.
yeah, there's this, like Jamie Lee Curtis has to staple a receipt to her forehead before she can hit the link to kind of become like the WWE version of herself.
She just becomes Michael Myers.
She just becomes Michael Myers.
I would love to see Michael Myers do a flying drop kick.
Dude, that's for Halloween Ends.
So yeah, just random stuff you have to do that allows you to briefly inhabit another version of yourself. Like our main character, Evelyn, uses it early on to kind of tie into her kung fu alternate reality to fight Deidre, which is just really cool. But man, seeing Jamie Lee Curtis become a WWE wrestler and just do all this like ridiculous stuff you would never see her do anywhere else. It's just how creative the movie is. But yeah, continuing on with her character, Amy and Sam, what did you guys think of her performance?
Sorry, I'm gonna backtrack.
That was a very
little bit.
long.
But with them talking about how they verse jump, like when he was explaining it to Evelyn, like how to do it, he gave the example of like, oh yeah, just tell, like, it would like be you telling Jamie Lee Curtis that you love her, like giving her like a sincere like I love you. And I sat there and I was like, oh yeah, she just has to say like a genuine I love you to whoever she's fighting, and that's her thing. So I was like, oh yeah, it's just the one thing that they do. Like the dad just like eats, like chews on something that's weird.
Eats
and
some chapstick.
That's
Ate
his
some
thing.
chapstick and then becomes like a great fighter with his wonderful fanny pack.
Dude, that part's so good. But yeah, I thought it was like the one thing, and then when she started doing like other stuff later in the movie, I was like, why did she snort that fly? What is happening? What's going on?
Right.
The idea is that your universe is like a center for where you are right now.
Mm-hmm.
If you have the technology that the Alphaverse created, they bring that with you. They kind of scan your brain. They scan your brain waves, and then that is like a link into the other realms that are around you.
Mm-hmm.
And what it is it links what's nearby any universe that's like really close,
Mm-hmm.
and then they find where you want to go. Say it's like a few universes away. They find the closest one. The weirdest thing there that you would do,
Mm-hmm.
if you commit that, it's going to latch on to it, but then kind of like elastic, you're going to get like slingshotted past it, so you'll go to the destination you want to do. And they give you a list of things that that are like you could do to get that slingshot to work. And one of the things that Evelyn learns to do is that she doesn't need the slingshot. She can just do a weird thing and then go to a random universe and try to think of where she wants to go. She won't always make it there right away, and it takes her time to like figure it out. But eventually she learns to just kind of picture where she wants to go. She's there. And then she can kind of use that world's Evelyn, what their skills are, what they have, to use it in her own universe.
Now I kind of want to rewatch it because, like,
Let's just do it now.
let's just do it now. We're stopping this podcast right now. We're gonna watch it. Bye. No, but
We'll be back in 2 hours.
I want to see if, like, if some of like the weird stuff that she does links to other ones, because I can see like her being like, oh, you have to genuinely say "I love you" to Jamie Lee Curtis. That could be like acting. Because they're saying like, oh, you have to break your arm if you want to. Like, the only other option is to break your arm.
She had the two options. She had break her own arm or take a nap. And he even questions, like, you're not tired right now, are you? And Jamie Lee Curtis just comes busting through the cube there, destroying it, and freaking her out even more. So it's like, no, she is not tired.
And try saying "I love you" to an angry, scary version of Jamie Lee Curtis that now knows how to
Macho
WWE.
Man,
Macho Man Jamie Lee Curtis.
I keep on wanting to say Mike Myers. Michael Myers.
It's Mike Myers.
Yeah, to kind of finish talking about her character, you see her later on also kind of get a more, human view of her character, where you start to connect her more with Evelyn and they start to understand each other's situations. And it kind of puts her into a more touching moment later where it's like you see the range again on what these actors had to do in this movie. And Jamie Lee Curtis does a great performance while being kind of just a side character, essentially. But it's really cool to see.
I like seeing... Sorry, I forgot that we were talking about that, and then I was like, wait, go back. But, one thing that I liked is, like, when they first show her, she's, like, just a straight-up, like, villain character, and how they have her just be Michael Myers and just, like, trying to kill her and all that. But then, like, going throughout the movie, we're, like, in the hot dog finger universe, her and Evelyn are, like, either married or dating, or they have a relationship.
They like sticking their hot dog fingers into each other's mouths.
I don't want to talk about it.
We don't need to talk about it.
Just a wet hot dog.
Ketchup and mustard comes out of their fingers.
Ah!
It was pretty gross.
Yeah, just the progression of, like, just Evelyn just being, like just scared of her. Just, like, trying to avoid her at all costs, like, throughout all the universes. But then at the end, like, just with the hot dog universe, just, like, it slowly shows them, like, coming back together. And it's just, like, that whole thing, like, throughout the movie where it's like, oh, now we understand each other. Now we love each other.
Well, like, if you... Like, the thought process being like, oh, if I have this romantic relationship with this person, and then how could... Like, if I could have a romantic relationship with this person, and I really don't like this person in our universe, there's probably some sort of way that, like, I know that this person's likable and lovable, so I'll try to tap in. Like, she's just like, oh, this person's not as bad as I thought they would be, and then she's vaping with her outside of her shop. Vaping scenes always kill me. It's just, I always feel like it's just a joke, like Baby Driver. It's just like, oh, they're hotboxing their Challenger or whatever. But that's a side tangent.
So moving on to my definite favorite character of the movie that we talked about a little bit earlier, but the character of Waymond Wang, played by the name I can't pronounce very well.
Ki Hu Kwan.
So, like I mentioned, his first role back in like 20 years, and he, I think, ties this whole movie together with his performance. It's one of the most impressive performances I've seen, period, and definitely probably the best one I've seen this year. But he plays a character that initially is, he's trying to keep everything together, trying to always look at things from a positive light. And even though he's seeking the divorce with Evelyn, it's revealed that he did it to more try to kind of work things out with her rather than actually intending to like follow through with it. And he just wants this life with a wife who he loves, and he even talks about how like I see the way you look at me sometimes, and you know it's just not there. But you see him jump around to different versions of himself in the movie as well. So there's our universe Waymond, which is like the lovey, kind version of himself, and then Alpha Universe's Waymond, who we call Alpha Waymond, is the opposite, where he comes in being this like badass fighter, you know, telling Evelyn everything she needs to do to get her into the ability to kind of, you know, explore the multiverse in the same way. And Alpha Waymond is so different from his counterpart. Like, Alpha Waymond is quick to violence, and he even is pretty quick to dismiss our universe's Evelyn when he doesn't think that she can kind of accomplish his goals, or the Alpha Universe's goals. And that's just a contrast with our Waymond, who, you know, is the complete opposite, as well as another version of him we'll talk about a little bit later. But with his performance, like, what did you guys think as far as what he did in this movie? How did it make you feel?
Oh, dude. To quote Amy and our freaking...
Don't steal it from me. I was
okay, no, never mind. I won't say that. I'll leave you to say it.
I'll say it for the both of us, don't worry.
Okay. But he is just one of the most likable characters I've seen in a long time. I don't know if there's a person in this world that would hate like main universe. Is it Waymond?
Waymond.
Yeah.
Waymond. It's Raymond, but with the W. Okay.
Everyone loves
Waymond. Waymond. This is a baby. Not to make fun of your name, I'm sorry. Thank you for listening. We're not going to do it. But I loved his character. So, what you said, the range, the versatility of the actor's like performance, you could just, I think, just the excitement of him coming back into acting, he just takes total control. That would be like, he goes to the director, and the director's probably like, "Hey, we want you to act," and he's like, "What do you want me to do?" He's like, "Everything. I want you to act every single thing you possibly can." And he's like, "I can do it. Please,
I can do this."
He just took that idea and ran.
Yeah.
But he's you said this yesterday. He's like the person that stuck out of all the characters. He's the best performance that we see in the movie. His lovable nature is so genuine, and it doesn't feel like it's an actor. It just feels like the actor himself is just being himself. He's not like, it feels genuine, not like something that was written on a piece of paper and he read it, like how some actors are, especially if they haven't acted in over 5 years.
He's not reading a cue card. I
Yeah.
have to say.
Yeah, with a 20-year pause, you could definitely do a lot worse with the performance.
Oh, yeah. I don't know if you could do better.
What about you, Jeremiah?
Fantastic character, for sure. I definitely feel like he was the character that kind of kept this all together. From not only, like, just from his perspective. Like, he has his own side to things. Like, Evelyn is our main character who's going through, who's having to learn a lot. But we're also learning from Waymond's character. He is kind of like the guide, the teacher in the end, that really gives the greatest, like, a really great story message for this movie. And then throwing out there that he's got his humor to his character, the action that he brings in, and then the development from him is what he brings, is what really kind of brought this movie all together.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I know, Amy, you said you had something you wanted to add about him.
Which episode was it where...
There was our Marvel episode where we talked about...
Dude, our very first episode, dude. I like me a good dad character, and
Loves dads.
yeah, and this is definitely someone that I'm like, oh yeah, that's my dad. I can't be mad at him. He's my dad. He's my Brendan Fraser. Like, I can't be mad at him. He can do no wrong.
Right.
He killed all those security guards. No, I don't see it. He's my dad. I love him. I see
That
nothing.
smile. That big smile. I also love how cocky and arrogant like the alpha Wayman is, because he's so cocky and arrogant and full of himself, to the point where he doesn't want to look like main universe Wayman. He has to take off his glasses, put it away, and then he's just like, I'm in character now. This is me. I'm not this nerd.
Very direct, you know.
Yeah.
He's just like, I'm here now.
I'm better than this Wayman. I'm the best.
I thought it was great for doing that because it really showed like switching character on the spot, just from being like normal Wayman to going to a whole different character.
Yeah, gave me a good chuckle too, like the scene where Alpha Wayman elbows like the file cabinet or something, trying to get it out of the way, and he's like, "Damn, what a weak body."
I love how main universe Wayman also just doesn't care that it's like, wait, why are my glasses just in my pocket? What's happening? I don't remember putting those there.
What a fast elevator ride.
What a fast elevator ride! Wow.
When he goes back to being like our universe Waymond after the fight scene with Deidre, and he's like, "What happened to my hand?"
Yeah. Oh yeah, because he
Gave him all the.
Oh man,
Yeah,
that was
just
intense.
really good stuff.
One thing I want to know if you guys noticed, but throughout the movie we kept seeing all the googly eyes all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know who it was that was actually putting those out?
It was Waymond.
It was Wayman.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I found, like, while watching it this time, I noticed, I was like, I wonder who's doing all the googly eyes. And I saw that he was, when he was doing up party decorations, he held one of the red lanterns, and he had put googly eyes on it.
I don't know.
And
He looks at Evelyn.
he looks at Evan, he's like, oh, better hide this. She doesn't want to see that.
He like books it. He's like, no, you can't take him away from me.
Yeah, there's a scene early on when they're in the chaos of trying to manage the laundromat, and she's trying to find all these customers' clothing that Waymond moved upstairs, and he's just such a lovable guy, because she's like, "Why the hell did you move it upstairs?" And he's like, "I think the clothes are happier up there."
They're happy up there. They go upstairs, and they're like, see, there they are, they're happier.
And she throws the Google eyes off, and she's like, "No more Google eye." Yeah,
I love all the different things too. He had it on the baseball bat, just random stuff in the building.
So when he was jumping around the laundromat at the beginning of the movie that you see like on the camera feed,
Right.
Was that Alpha or was that
Yeah,
just
that-
It
him?
was.
So
So
that was like the
No,
first
that's
time
just-
Alpha Wayman
Yeah, I was
had
like,
showed
was that
up.
just a
Yeah.
weird character trait that he has in the universe?
So the first scene you get where you start to realize that this isn't really just a family drama, there's a scene where you see our universe Waymond just kind of like jolt up, and then all of a sudden he like whips his glasses off, he's looking around the laundromat, and then he's like parkouring over the washer machines.
They did it so sneaky because like
All they did was have it on like the security camera in the back.
yeah, well like because it was like I think Evelyn was like doing something where she was chatting with someone, and then in the background it was the security cam. So like if you notice, you can see him like running around, but then it like zooms in with like him like running around even more.
Yeah.
But then
it's
it like goes.
hey, wait a minute.
Yeah, it goes back to normal so quickly because the second they look back at the camera, he's just dancing like a normal goofy
Yeah.
dad with the other dude that was showing up at the laundromat.
Right.
Okay, the cinematography is so good. Is that a normal A24 thing? Is just how crazy good the cinematography
It is. That's one thing they're pretty well known for with a lot of their projects.
Mhm.
Like the first shot where you see like the mirror or something, and you walk through the mirror, and then like
Right. That's actually very similar to Hereditary's intro. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but there's a scene where it like pans in through a dollhouse, and then the room you're looking at in the dollhouse just becomes the house they're in. So they do a lot of cool tricks like that really like visually are just impressive.
Mm-hmm.
And the movie does a lot. Everything Ever All at Once does a lot with how it's filmed as well. Because you see when they jump to different universes, they might use tricks like switching to widescreen or switching back to full screen, filming with a different camera lens or a different like aspect ratio, and even messing with kind of the frame rate sometimes. So they do a lot to kind of immerse you into the idea of not being where the movie is telling you are, you know?
I know during the movie I was like, hey, wait a minute, did it just go widescreen? Wait a second.
Like switching from like IMAX to like,
And I was like, hey, wait a minute, did it just... Sam, help me.
Like, yep, it happened.
Sam, why did they do that?
I don't know, but it's cool.
Well, like, I think I, like, looked down for a second and then looked up, or, like, I blinked and I was like, hey, it's different now. What happened?
Yeah, and then one more thing I want to add on Wayman's character. So when we look at the typical portrayal of, like, a male hero within a movie, you often see them start out as, like, our universe Waymond, where maybe they're weak or kind of a pushover, and then they eventually evolve into becoming what is Alpha Waymond. But this movie kind of does the opposite, where Alpha Waymond is not what resolves the movie's conflicts. It's actually our version of Waymond, who, through his unique perspective on life, is kind of the force that changes everything around him. So to kind of expand on that, so like normal Waymond is kind and understanding, and the movie's conflicts are only resolved through him basically teaching Evelyn how to understand and be kind in the situation, which allows her to connect with her daughter after seeing things kind of the way she sees it and understanding how she feels. So I thought it was cool that the movie kind of denied that trope of like typical character ascension. You know, and Waymond, our universe Waymond, enters the movie and exits the movie as the same person. He doesn't undergo any change. It's everyone around him that changes through his actions, and I just thought that was a really cool way to kind of handle it. But that's a lot of the main performances. There's also Gong Gong, played by James Hong, who is the grandfather of the family, who mostly falls into like an antagonistic role. You know, he's got that...
He goes like a little bit of both, because...
Yeah.
He has like the our universe gone, where he's gone, mind-wise, because he's old, he's frail, he even like during like the big crisis in the IRS building, he's found in the break room eating their tapioca pudding, minding his own business. But then he comes out of nowhere from the Alphaverse as Alpha Gon, and he's like he's their leader in the Alphaverse. He's the tactician, he's their general, and he's commanding their whole units and telling them like that Jobo Tupaki is the bad guy, that they need to stop him.
Right. He's like, Evelyn, you need to kill your daughter right now because it gives her one less universe to inhabit. And she's like, she's my daughter. How could you ask me to do that? And he's like, how do you think I feel? But it's necessary, you know?
Mm-hmm. he's a letter of the law kind of person that I feel like is one of those characters that's not like the true antagonist, but it's like that wall that's put in. I'm trying to think of like another character that's like that, like Morbius.
Stop! We keep bringing this up. It makes me mad.
But Morbius, you have him being the protagonist, Milo being the antagonist, and then like this side antagonist is like the police force, and the police force is Gong Gong in the movie. And I'm sorry that was the only thing I could think of in the moment, but that movie's so good. Go watch that movie. Screw watching.
No. I want a new take, please. Just do over.
Sorry, we're gonna have to cut this podcast short. You guys gotta leave.
So, we're looking for some new special guests.
Don't watch these guys' podcasts. It sucks.
All they talk about is Morbius. I just want a Morb so bad.
It's Morbin tone.
Pisses me off. Don't do it.
Sorry, that's the only way I could think of what his character was.
I feel like he has more of like a ripple effect.
Meaning,
Like just like things that he's done has affected his daughter, and then now that's like affecting how she treats her daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like with all of them, like it may not be the extreme of like, oh, my granddaughter is like, in like basically the Antichrist in my universe. We gotta kill her. And then just like in the original one where it's like, well, I don't know how he feels about this, but just like the thought of like, oh well, what's gonna happen if he finds out that she's gay, and like even she says like, oh yeah, he's already on his deathbed. If he finds out about it, he's gonna die of that, and if he doesn't, then he's just gonna die, so it doesn't matter. So it's like just the reaction stuff.
And even later on in the movie, when they finally do introduce them as a couple to Gong Gong, he didn't react the way I think they expected. Like, he seems a little surprised, but he didn't seem like against it, if he even understood it. But
yeah, I don't know if he's like at some form of like disability of like being old and like not there. But yeah.
The one thing was that was actually a different universe compared to the stuck in the wheelchair first universe we go into. The one where they're having their party, that was another similar universe, but it was a little bit different. I think that one was like jumped kind of a bit ahead in time, where they just went home after the IRS building. They were trying to get things ready to go drop off the paperwork at 6, and then they were going to have the party. But in that universe, he was still walking around. He didn't have like his wheelchair or anything. So I think that one was just a tiny bit different.
Oh, you're saying that there was a... Wait. So you're saying the party at the end of the movie
That
is
is
a different multiverse of the one at the beginning of the movie?
That's a separate one.
it breaks
I have a
off.
feeling-
But it's like slight differences. So this, because a lot of it takes place like really jumping pretty far. But this one, when we were seeing them at the party, it was showing a tiny difference where the IRS fight never happened. So they just went home. And that's what that was. They were getting the party ready.
I think it was like the decision that Alpha Wayman gave her, where he was like, oh yeah, you can go to the closet, or you can just do your own thing and do whatever. Like that universe is where she did her thing and like didn't pay attention to like the service closet.
Sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense. So what happened to main world, like main storyline universe is it's just a destroyed universe where there's just the bagel in it?
I guess. I don't know.
I'm not exactly sure what happened with the bagel, because I remember when they pulled her away, the bagel was still there, but I'm pretty sure they were able to get rid of it.
Oh, I'm pretty sure there was just no save. Like the
It doesn't matter. They can be anywhere, or they can be everywhere.
That is true,
anywhere,
actually,
all at
because it
once.
never does show that they close the bagel.
True, it just kind of jumps back to the
it goes
divergent
back to
universe.
that world.
Yeah.
Which I don't mind, because that's where a lot of the movie's heart and kind of closure comes from.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But kind of moving aside from the characters, the last thing I kind of want to talk about is the movie's use of kind of general comedy, just kind of the span of emotions the movie gives you, whether it's comedy or it's more touchy moments.
More of like the writing.
Yeah.
There's some physical cringe involved as well.
I do think it's a very funny movie, and I want to kind of talk about the comedy side first, but I know we all had a pretty good laugh watching it. What was most effective comedic-wise for you guys?
Comedic? Bro, the what did they call it? The raccoon?
Ratatouille.
Yeah.
Dude.
By far, one of my favorite, like, at first I'm like, this is stupid. And then later on I'm like, this is stupid, but I love it.
I totally feel like that whole conversation of just like when she's first talking about like Ratatouille and how she like gets the name wrong, and they're like, oh dude, Ratatouille, haha. And I was like, I sat there and I was like, oh, that totally feels like just like a regular like family conversation. Like that feels like that could have been like one of the writers being like, "Oh man, we totally did that to my mom. We can put that in the movie." And someone's like, "Make it a universe now."
Universe.
That was one of my favorite lines in the movie too, when it goes from Alpha Waymond back to our normal universe Waymond, and he's like, "Was I Raccoon Waymond again?"
Is that Raccoon Joy?
Yeah. How about the scene with the fight in the office with the questionable trophies?
Questionable trophies.
Bro,
True humor. I was like foreseeing it. The very first time I saw it, I saw those. Didn't register at all, but then it showed them again. I was like, oh no.
I want to know if these guys are method actors and they actually shove stuff up their butts.
Yeah, to be a little gross, not necessarily explicit, but the IRS building they're in, they have these trophies on Deidre's desk that are basically just like butt plugs. And I thought it was funny because you always think of corporations as having like something up their butt. I just thought it was a good laugh that like their literal trophies kind of resemble that. But yeah, there's a scene in the movie where Evelyn's fighting these two guys, and they basically are thrown out of their current like verse jump
They need
path.
to get a new jump path.
And
And
so-
they gotta do something weird.
The guy's like, "I need a new jump path," and then you see him look over to the trophy on the desk, and I was like, "Oh no!"
Oh,
And then he finds a bigger trophy.
So the whole fight is Evelyn trying to stop this guy from shoving the butt plug trophy up his butt.
And then I was sort of happy. I'm not a big fan of nudity in movies. I think it's I've never. It's always been a turnoff for movies. I'm like, okay, they're pulling me out of this. But I saw like the bare legs of the other dude. I'm like, oh no, I'm gonna see this man's everything right now. And then they blurred it out. I'm like, that actually makes it comically more hilarious.
mhm.
But,
Right.
But they didn't do it later in the movie when he shows up again.
Oh really?
Yeah, they didn't have the bar on him. But he was still pants.
He was just pantsless. They
I'm
didn't they didn't have that below view. They always had the above
yeah, I didn't
view.
notice. I didn't notice. But, yeah.
I avoided my gaze at him the whole time.
But if you do you if you like that. But
Right.
I mean, I kind of sit here like, we see boobs all the time. Why do the boys get to have the bar on them? What is this?
like I said, I'm not a big fan of any nudity in movies usually. So.
I mean, if they're gonna block out one of like if they're not gonna have one thing, just don't do any of it, or just go all out. I don't care.
Watch some of A24's other movies because they kind of avoid censoring for both.
Oh
But
yeah.
That's what I've heard.
Men, that was a lot.
I love Men. The movie.
I knew it.
The movie. Yeah.
Cycling back to that first joke.
Just really efficient comedy, effective comedy throughout. I thought it was just so funny, but it's really impressive how the movie manages to be so serious, but also so funny, but also getting you to the point of like almost crying. Like me personally, I've seen the movie 3 times, and every time Waymond gives like his final speech, I don't cry, but I get very close.
Oh yeah. I was like, nobody look at me. I think I'm about to be a mess.
And I was like, I shouldn't have worn this much eyeliner. I'm gonna cry.
Yeah, it gets pretty touching at the end because you have Waymond giving his worldview to Evelyn, which kind of propels things into the conclusion, but also how it ties into Evelyn and the daughter resolving their conflict, where you see all these special effects where it's like the 2 rocks colliding, 2 planets colliding, and like things coming together, and then it just cuts to them hugging, which just comes off as really strong. Because it's like you feel the impact of what that hug means to them, even as a viewer who doesn't know either of them personally. You know, it's just how effective they make it in the movie.
One scene that was very surprisingly like one scene that I loved a lot for like its emotional value is the universe where they're just rocks.
There's
Yeah.
just rocks.
like I feel like we have a friend who's blind, and whenever I watch a movie with him, we do like audio description or whatever, and he likes watching movies, even though he can't see it, so it defeats the watching a movie thing. But, anyways, like just seeing the subtitles and that being the dialogue, and there's no music. It's just, I don't know. It was an interesting situation where like you had like the emotional stuff of like the relationship between the daughter and the mother, but then you also got the really funny parts of language and just like and they're like yeah, but then all of a sudden it's just like the ha 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 ha
Just both laughing in text.
Yeah,
it's so good.
the whole rock sequence is dead silent and it's just subtitled, but it's really creative what they do with some of the like universes they portray. That one in particular I thought was really cool.
Like it gives you a chance to just like
Breathe.
yeah, it's one of those moments that's just it's just a calm thing where you don't really have to think too much about it, other than the fact that like, okay, we're rocks, don't worry about that. This is now dialogue.
Right. And they even make that touching because, like you said, there's the part where Evelyn's rock kind of starts to nudge over towards Joy's rock, and she's like, "I'm gonna get you," and Joy's rock is like, "Stay away." And she's like,
You're supposed to be a rock in here. You can't move.
Like,
There are no rules. I do what I want.
So yeah, really cool
Puts on
balance.
googly eyes on her rock.
yeah.
Perfect.
Right. Yeah, just really cool to see how they play around with the emotions without anything really feeling overdone or underdone or unrealistic. Because the movie takes you through all those feelings, but it takes the time to set them all up. So the payoff is really good.
Mm-hmm.
So talking about googly eyes, Amy has googly eyes made up on her like face.
Whoa. Stop.
It's
This is
right,
my eyes.
right here.
Whoa.
She's like, "Do you notice anything?" I'm like,
Sam, do you see anything?
I'm like, no, it's like literally the size of a freckle. I have 2 billion of these on my body. I don't notice every single one of them. So it's the same situation.
My poor ginger friend.
Yeah.
Alrighty, so to kind of sum up here, I just want to kind of get our personal rating on the movie. Feel free to rate it however you like. I'm pretty traditional. I usually stick to either like letter grade or out of 10. But for me, it's full score. I love this movie so much, and it's an easy like 10 out of 10 or A+ for me.
Mm-hmm.
It does everything right. There's nothing in the movie I don't like, and it's the most unique viewing experience this year's given me, but it's also like the most unique one I've just had out of pretty much everything I've seen. So it's quickly become not like any order that I've listed, but it's in my top 5 for sure, somewhere. What about you guys? We'll start with you, Amy. What would you give the movie?
I'd probably give it the same thing. Like it'd be up there in like my top 5 or top 10. Like it's probably one of my favorites.
Like movies of all time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's definitely my number 1 movie for this year. So far. The year hasn't ended yet.
Isn't,
Batman?
Yeah. Batman's number 2 now.
isn't that frustrating, though, that this movie didn't really get the time in theaters or, like, the attention called to it?
Yes. It makes me so mad. It was literally in the theater in our town, city, whatever we want to call it. It was only there for like a week.
Yeah, it was literally there for like a week and a half in
Yeah.
theaters.
I wonder what it was like outside of the state. Like,
Mhm.
like if it was like in California
Mm-hmm.
or like, I wonder
Yeah.
if it was.
Because Utah doesn't give as much love to the R-rated movies.
Yeah.
They're more, like, out there movies.
Especially in our city where it's just a whole bunch of old people.
Oh yeah.
They're just like, I wanna watch. I just wanna watch documentaries.
Why does this man have hot dogs for fingers?
What is that trophy? What is that?
That's not a creative looking trophy. They're usually golden. It should look like a cup, not a rock.
Yeah, when
Well, I can say for good news is they did hit 100.7 million worldwide.
What was their
Does
What
it
was
give
their
their
budget?
budget?
Yeah, that's what I was looking for.
Budget says they earned about $509,000 from 10 venues in its opening weekend.
Okay, that's not the answer.
I'm just surprised that because I noticed that I think they produced it or something, but the Russo brothers helped out in some big way with the movie. So I'm kind of surprised that people didn't really look at the movie.
Yeah, that I did not know. So the directors, they call themselves the Daniels, but it's Daniel Kwan and Daniel Scheinert, I believe, are the two that directed it.
their last names aren't Daniel.
Right.
Our wonderful Sam here found the budget for the movie.
I am the smartest man alive. I did just search up everything, everywhere, all at once budget, and it said 25 million. So,
okay.
And you said 100. You said 100.
They got 100 million for worldwide. They got 70 million United States, and then 30 million in other countries.
Okay, so Utah didn't give it the love it deserved, but if you live somewhere else, maybe you like this movie more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd imagine California was the big spot where it was treated with
Yeah.
love.
Because, I did have the privilege of seeing it in theaters, and you were there, right? We both saw it in theaters?
Yeah.
Yeah, we went out. It was just kind of like a date night. Jeremiah was third-wheeling it.
It was fun.
Don't worry, we
But-
filmed that too.
I wasn't left out.
Me being, the big fan of A24 that I am, to me it's just a new A24 release, and I wanted to go see it. And I didn't really have expectations because I didn't go in with a lot of knowledge, but I came out of it just being so impressed. So I'm really glad I got to see it where it was intended in theaters.
Mm-hmm.
It's still an excellent movie on the small screen, but it's definitely an experience.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hoping that they get nominated for stuff, because then that will bring it back to the theater. At least
Yeah.
theaters around here.
Yeah, because that's what they do. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm
I could-
hoping they get nominated.
I could pretty easily see this movie winning a lot, whether it's the direction, the acting, costumes,
Mm-hmm.
everything,
Mhm.
everywhere,
Yeah,
all at
getting
once.
Well,
So
obscure movies. Obscure movies. I can't say movies and obscure at the same time. They usually get awards, and I'm like, I've never seen this before. It's whatever.
I mean, I don't know about A24 as a whole, but I know their whole a lot of their movies are horror based,
Mm.
and horror doesn't really get treated well with
Or
all
psychological thrillers.
yeah.
yeah, they don't get treated well with getting awards and stuff when some of them do deserve it.
Mm.
But I don't know if that would be also considering A24 as a whole. But I'm pretty sure they have movies that got nominated for stuff.
Right.
Well,
Actually,
my sort of to keep it on going. My bad. I give this probably. I don't know if I could ever give a movie a 5 out of 5. So I'm gonna give it a 4.5. I think it's a really good movie. I think it's one of the movies that, it's a really fun film. I think one of my favorite films is Scott Pilgrim versus the World, just because of the fact of how fun it is.
Mhm.
And I think those two movies compete for top spot of most fun movie. And not saying it's my favorite movie, but I had a lot of fun with it, and I really liked it. So yeah, I'm about 4.5 out of 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you, Sir Jeremiah.
I definitely will give it a good, solid score. Definitely can say 10 out of 10. Fantastic movie. I didn't find any faults with it either.
Mm.
They portrayed it really well. Pacing was really good. Ups and downs, and they did something that's in a time where making something new isn't always easy. So many things have been done. You could probably find similar things out there, but they did their best interpretation for this movie and definitely did something unique that isn't shown in a lot of other movies.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So that pretty much does it for this episode. It's a movie that we all thought was really solid. Definitely, if you guys haven't seen it, take the time, try and find, I don't know where it's streaming, but either find a place it's streaming if you're so inclined, pick up a DVD copy. It's worth the watch. Definitely recommended.
Something that we're going to recommend even more, listen to our show, The Average Joe Show. Look for us on Instagram and TikTok. We haven't posted anything on TikTok yet. We're at AJS_podcast. Sorry to throw my plug in there.
No, you're good. I have personally listened to your guys' show. I think it's very entertaining.
Oh, thank you.
And I do recommend checking it out.
And we're going to have these guys for another episode. Undetermined yet. I don't know what we're going to talk about. But this is, yeah, we'll have you on the show.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, look forward to that. But in the meantime, if you guys feel so inclined, join us back in our next episode. Hopefully, this is only the third so far, but hopefully the third of many to come. Thank you for taking the time to listen to us today. And with that, go in peace, and we hope you guys have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Bye!
Bye.